Welcome. Welcome to today's webinar, The Belonging Matrix Unlocked, Strategies for Harmonious Learning Spaces in the New School Year. We'll just give a minute or so for everyone to get settled and come on in. We are glad that you are joining with us today at our webinar. So again, thank you for joining the Belonging Matrix Unlocked, Strategies for Harmonious Learning Spaces in the New School Year. My name is Toya Hancock. I'm a Regional Engagement Specialist for Harmony Academy, and we welcome you all here today. We host our monthly webinars to bring together thought leaders in education, sharing topics to inspire the best teaching and support social, personal, and academic learning. Opinions and content in this presentation are not that of the featured guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony. You will receive a recorded version after the webinar for you to watch again or share with colleagues. Today's objectives. As the audience today, you will understand the role of belonging in student success. You will gain practical strategies to foster belonging, and you will learn how to measure and prioritize belonging institutionally. So we are ready for our poll. We have a poll. Amanda's going to cue it up for us. What does belonging look like to you on a school campus? So if you'll go ahead and plug your answers in, A, B, C, or all of the above. And we're tabulating. Let's see. We're almost there. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for participating. Yes, all right. All of the above. Yes, what does belonging look like to you on a school campus? So majority says all of the above. Teachers, principals, support staff know all of their students' first names. You see adults and children are working together to include everyone, and students know about the resources available for them and how to access them. Very good. Thank you again for participating in our poll. Wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and start or continue on with let's get back here. Let's see, with our quick connection card for our panelists. Actually, let's go ahead and we're going to introduce them and then we'll go ahead and connect with them. So we have an esteemed group who will be here and who is here, and they're going to help us dive into why the sense of belonging is so important and what that looks like in our schools and our communities. So our presenter, Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, is one of the world's most prolific and influential scholars in the fields of education, psychology, and the academic study of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. One of his core passions is translating research to practice in ways that improve the material conditions and lived experiences of our most vulnerable populations in society. He accomplishes this mission largely through the more than 3,000 plus public talks, distinguished lectures, and keynotes he has delivered across the globe. Welcome, Dr. Strayhorn. And we have Dr. Alejandro Diaz Granados. who has been in elementary education in Washington, D.C. for the past 10 years. A couple of fascinating facts. Dr. Alejandro has secured a school laundry grant from the Washington Commanders, and he has collaborated with Drew Barrymore to provide 265 laptops to his school during COVID-19. Dr. Alejandro has been recognized as the DC Teacher of the Year. Emily Gaska is a passionate multilingual reading specialist and a multi-tier system of support lead in Chicago Public Schools. Emily received a 2023 Meritorious Service Teacher Award, and her work has been recognized at the national level. And Christy Fernandez has been working in the educational field for over 18 years and currently teaches in Washoe County in Reno, Nevada. A skillful and dedicated teacher, she has supported the district wide implementation of personal, social, and academic development. We are delighted to have our seasoned educators here to share their experiences with us today. Now it is time for our quick connection card, which is a part of our Harmony everyday practices. If we can have, we're going to connect with our speakers, our speaker and our panelists. And what would you say? What are kind words or actions that you would share with a student or colleague to help make them smile?
I'm going to start, and I'm going to start telling everybody here that it's with me today that I appreciate you for everything that you do every day for all our kids. And I think I made
Wonderful.
everybody smile. So,
Yeah, you did. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Strayhorn, Emily, Dr. Alejandro.
I can go. So I actually started at a new school this year. I've been working at my previous school for 10 years, and I'm at a new school, learning a lot of new staff members, new students as well. But I only get to teach my subset of students, second and third grade. But there's so many new students at this school, so I have kind of made it my mission to meet as many students as I can, students that I don't know or students who I see who might not have many friends or might not just be as socially confident as other students, and just letting them know that they have someone who is in the building that's not their teacher that also has their back. They can come talk to me, and I am not judging them for their academics. I don't even know what their academics are. So just meeting other students within the building, throughout the building. I teach second and third, and I've met a lot of fourth and fifth graders who have come keen to my classroom, although they won't have me. They just want to just share things with me, and now they feel like they know someone else in the building. So that's been my kind of goal this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can go next and add on to that. I think that making people feel like they belong, whether it is staff members or children, and always acknowledging their efforts. I love to pour and affirm others, especially like if somebody's presenting and I notice something or something resonates with me, I will go and I will share and just thank them for what they shared or how it resonated with me, just to allow to kind of make them feel like it somebody in the room, what you did or what you shared was so valuable. And sometimes I feel like all of us can resonate, but not always, we don't always acknowledge it or let the other person know. So even if it's a student who said something or did something, or it's an adult, I always make the time and effort to go thank them and just either affirm them or to let them and share with them what resonated with me.
Thank you. Dr. Strayhorn.
Yes, I think so many wonderful ideas have already been kicked around, and so to quick connect card, I think I would talk to folks, much like my colleagues, and say that listen, if you work in education, the word education in Latin means is translated educare, and it means to draw out the light that is within. And so I often share that with educators to say, much like Christy's sentiment to each and every one of you, no matter how stormy it is outside, wherever you are, or how busy your life is, you, as an educator, have light. That you connect with students' lights in classrooms in ways that help unlock that light. And as I often tell, even on my own campus, my colleagues and my faculty, that on your darkest day, we have to remember that we are some students' brightest light. So we must shine. I'd say that, and I see smiles.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Dr. Strayhorn. We are excited and we are anticipating great things and learning great things about belonging. So, I'm going to turn it over to you
And
as
Latoya, I
yes,
don't know, you'll queue up the slides, and also I don't know if
yes.
you and the Harmony team know this, but someone put in the Q&A that they can't access the chat. So if we can unlock that, people can blow up the chat for us while we're talking. But to those who are tuning into the webinar, thanks for being here. You're in for an exciting conversation. I'm going to talk for a little bit about belonging and the belonging matrix from my research, and then my colleagues and subject matter experts in the field are going to come and join us for some Q&A and discussion. But what better way to kick off than to imagine walking into a room, whether it's a classroom or a boardroom, place of work, wherever it might be. Um, then imagine walking into a room full of strangers. No one knows anyone. You can imagine how isolating, alienating that is. You don't know where to sit. You don't know if there are certain places you can sit or cannot sit, if certain things are off limits or on limits. It's very difficult and uncomfortable to navigate. Now, switch your mind to a room that you've walked into, classroom, boardroom, living room, right? Where you're greeted with warm smiles, hugs, people hurrying you over, saved reserved seats. Um, the smell of things that are familiar. And you look around the room and you see things that sort of resonate or cue up for you. Hey, I know this place. I know these are my people. That's the sense of belonging that we're talking about. And in educational context, sense of belonging really refers to students' perceived sort of social support in schools, in colleges and universities, on campus, in our buildings. It's a feeling or a sensation of connectedness, care, community. These are these big C words. And it's also referring to the experience that students have in your classroom or mine, that they matter, that someone's caring about them academically and their success, but also personally, and that they can feel safe. This is important when we get to the promising practices, but safe, secure, respected, and accepted, important part, just as they are. That in order for me to be in your classroom or your laboratory, I don't have to, um, perform to be someone I'm not. I don't have to conceal some important part of my lived experience or identity. That this is a place where I can be part of a bona fide member of the classroom or the learning community just the way I am. And in my research, um, there's a LinkedIn article that sort of summarizes some of this work. There's a fuller book that's out there that I wrote in 2019. And then there are two books forthcoming this year that really anchor some more recent research about belonging, and also this particular belonging matrix that you see on the screen. Here's what I've written about in my research, and that is that belonging operates across multiple different dimensions or planes, right? That you
Mm.
have a feeling of belonging at the individual level, that there's also an interpersonal dimension to belonging that really refers to how we connect with others and those relationships that we share with others, and especially in education, in the classroom, in learning spaces. These are instructors, these are peers, these are guest instructors, teaching aides, and the like. And then there's a third level that belonging operates at. That's really the institutional, organizational, school kind of level. And so these three serve as like primary planes for belonging conversation. That at the same time, um, there are three sort of dimensions of belonging, and that is the cognitive, affective, and behavioral domain. And so, what I've done in this particular model is take the three planes and the dimensions and create a matrix that then shows us as we think about creating conditions for all students to belong. And as I close up in a few minutes, I'll talk to us about why that's important. But if we want to create conditions in schools and districts, in classrooms and laboratories where all students feel that sense of belonging, it does require us to build those conditions, paying attention to what's happening at the individual, interpersonal, and institutional level, organizational, school level, across these domains. So, at the individual cognitive level, this really refers to the belief that students, individual students, have that they belong in the school, in the classroom, and that they're valued. There's an affective dimension to it, and that is where students at the individual level start thinking about feeling whether or not they feel, that's the affective part, safe, secure, a sense of pride. And then consequently, there are certain behaviors at the individual level that also are related to their notion or overall assessment of belonging. And that is, are they engaged in certain behaviors or actions um, that relate to their sense of belonging? So this is engagement in self-care, helping behaviors, seeking expressive kind of spaces. I won't go through all of these because hopefully you can see that there are sort of three planes and these three dimensions, and we're talking about the intersections of those. I'll call attention to a few more though. At the institutional level, which is where I find most educators, principals, superintendents, university personnel struggle, is really thinking about what are the organizational kinds of questions that I should be paying attention to and asking if I'm really trying to create conditions for belonging. In the cognitive domain, what we're talking about is, are there certain institutional practices or institutional beliefs, what we call institutional logics, policies, and practices that reflect the school's belief in human dignity, in student safety, in issues of justice and democracy, right? In the importance of relationships. I was at a school one time in somewhere in Chicago. No, it was in Illinois, not Chicago, but in Illinois, where students would say things like, "Oh my gosh, my school cares a lot about me. My school cares a lot about teachers connecting with students." When you ask the question, "Well, how did you come to decide that the school cares a lot about it?" The answers they would give you are things like, "Well, they designate time in the day where teachers can check in with students. It's part of teacher evaluation." So the institutional logic set not just individual kind of moments, but set practices across the school, policies that really influence and encourage teachers to connect with students in that way. And then lastly, there are also institutional kinds of dimensions in the behavioral domain. These are school-based, organization-based kinds of celebration, initiatives, and programs that bring people together to foster community. Sometimes these are called pep rallies and campus traditions and homecoming and the like. Next slide. So then you might ask yourself, why in the world would we care so much about belonging and think through this matrix? Because the evidence is crystal clear that belonging produces positive outcomes. That's when you foster conditions for students to feel a sense of belonging, they come to class. So attendance goes up. That when they're, part of a community and there are policies governing how they interact with each other and how they interact with teachers, then issues of bullying behaviors, as well as fighting and violence, and those are reduced, and you have a greater presence of celebration and community and connectedness and collaboration. And in that kind of environment where students are connecting in productive environments, they're enjoying supportive relationships with teachers and personnel. Of course, you might imagine that learning engagement is optimized, grades go up, test scores go up. It's a really exciting kind of environment. And our experts on the panel in a moment will talk about some of these practices of how it's done. Some examples that really support the belonging matrix are shown on the screen. It's when we create spaces for near peer mentoring programs that pair new students with, our current students who have been trained as peer navigators. They're not just pointing out where the library is or where's the cafeteria, although when you're hungry, that's critically important. But they're also helping students decode certain language, learn the school culture, build the confidence, know where to go so they can succeed and thrive. It's reflected in community building activities like the ones I mentioned, where students come, and this is not just pep rallies, but some schools that I've studied and worked in have orientations for new students that help them become part of the community. But there are also common hours where there's an hour of the school day where there's no, like, everyone's free to sort of connect. This is a good time for faculty or staff, teachers to meet with students, to offer extra help, for student clubs to meet. That kind of strategy can be really effective in sanctioning time and space in the school day for this kind of community building and connection. Then, lastly, as I said earlier, really anchoring it in our performance metrics so that it becomes more than a buzzword, but how teachers and staff are evaluated reflects our commitment to belonging. That how departments and area program areas are celebrated and recognized reflects our commitment to belonging. So that we stand up and celebrate, like you'll hear in a moment from our experts and our panel, that teachers who go out of their way to connect with students and families are recognized through the reward system, that they're held up as leaders amongst their peers, and they're provided space to offer that training to others. And it doesn't have to always be expensive pep rallies or new traditions that are complicated and difficult. I was in Hawaii and met a teacher who talked about belonging in their classroom, that they learned that sometimes students just need a place where they can go in the middle of the day where their anxiety's up or they're overwhelmed with the assignment. And so he created a space in the corner of a classroom, outfitted it with a cute chair, some comfy carpet, some books to read, and then set up a tradition in the classroom, not just the school, the classroom, where when students were feeling a need to unload, a little bit overload, information overload, they could go to that space, reset, recharge, and then come back and join the community. And for students to still be a part of, but to have a place where they could go, communicated or signaled, hey, I care about you, your well being, your ability to navigate, but also keeping you in the classroom as part of the community. In a moment, we'll hear much more, but to me, that is the insight about the belonging matrix and some examples to support the belonging matrix in schools. I look forward to the panel that is about to begin next. Tony?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Strayhorn. Our tanks are full, and we are excited about asking some questions. We do have the Q&A box. I do have some questions ready for our for you, Dr. Strayhorn, and our panelists. But we do have the Q&A box open. If we have time, we'll get to those questions. So wonderful nuggets there on belonging and the importance. So I'm going to stick to the script, although I've got some additional questions here about what you said, but I'm going to stick to the script. So Dr. Strayhorn, what are the first steps to building a belonging matrix? And how do we know if we are on the right track in building one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so let's think about it. If you look at what I shared in the belonging matrix is just a sort of a framework born out of the theory of belonging. I often say in public talks about belonging, I anchor my work on belonging in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it starts with our basic needs: air, water, food, and shelter. So, great place to get started is to make sure that our students' basic needs are met first. I mean, it's hard, no matter, you're going to hear from some amazing educators in this webinar. So get ready. But no matter how amazing an educator or teacher is, a principal might be, it's hard to pay attention in class when you're hungry. It's
Mhm,
virtually
mhm.
impossible to do well on an exam when you're so tired because you didn't know where you're going to lay your head at night. So I think we have to pay attention to, how do our students, do they have the basic needs? Air, food, water, sleep, and on top of that, safety. I mean, it's hard to pay attention in a lab when you're worried about your physical safety, your emotional safety, and we need to talk about it, psychological safety. which has huge implications for how we're providing professional development and staff development for our teachers to make sure that they're creating spaces and teaching and using pedagogies that are supportive of our students' learning. All right, so those are things that you can do, I think, to get started. The second is building some routines to really affirm that students matter, right? If I have any concern for education at all, is that we're running out of traditions and we're running out of routines. Like, listen, there is a science that supports secret handshakes and learning students' names. And
Yes.
I mean, I didn't do it when I first started teaching. I was an elementary school teacher. I did not come through a teacher prep program at first. And so I went into a classroom and I thought you just have fun, and it doesn't work. Got to have structure. Got to have tradition. You got students want to know what's going to happen in my life for the next. Can you imagine walking into a classroom or walking into a room and not knowing what the next 50 minutes of your life would hold, what the next, hour of your life would entail? So having standards for instruction, a layout of the class schedule, is not just something that people often talk about in teaching 101. These are belonging mechanics to help students know what's expected of them, that we get to know them as more than a name on a roster, really as humans, and creating those kinds of connections so that students feel at home. I've seen schools where teachers have set up that kind of meet and greet, staff check-ins, hallway greetings, traditions at the door, all sorts of routines. Hey, you start the day off with the first 5 minutes is whatever. What was it, rose or thorn, where a student gets to talk about a rose or talk about a thorn, a difficult moment. Those kind of check-ins make them different. Student engagement goes up. There are fewer absences, and students feel cared about. How do you know it's working? You know it's working when you look at your data and attendance is going up. You talk to your staff, and students are engaged more in the classroom. Here's another way: when you start walking across the school and students are wearing the paraphernalia of the school, because people don't put on the identity of a place when they don't feel like they belong and matter. So when you see school spirit boosting and rising in those subtle ways, you say, pat on the back. That webinar that we listened to at Harmony made a
Right,
difference.
right.
I'd say that in response to the question.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. So, and it leads us right into just the for teachers. So, our educators, what advice do you have for the audience to maximize this sense of belonging? So what strategies can we utilize to maximize the sense of belonging in classrooms or in student campuses right from the start of school?
I would say for me is relationships needs to be first. Academics will come after. Build that relationship with the students. Make sure that they know that you care and that together you guys will be able to achieve everything. So I think the priority for teachers should be that we need to build relationships. That's the first thing. If we want to worry about academics, we can do that later. But when the kids feel trusted and they feel that they have a safe space to go, they will be there and they'll do anything.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to add to that. I think that making sure that we build a community of belonging and incorporating some of the strategies that Dr. Terrell has shared with us in regards to like near peer mentors, thinking back to like the times where I would incorporate the community building community unit into my classroom, my kindergarten classroom. There was activities of buddy to create buddy partners. But when
Yes.
we think about that, I think it's such a wonderful idea to be able to partner up my kindergarten students with first grade students because they understand those challenges at the beginning of the year. It's such a different world. Some come from home with no structures or no routines, or some come from daycare, which are completely different. So having that peer buddy near mentor, I think would really benefit and is something that I would like to add on to what Christy said. And also affirmations for me was huge. Taking the words from that the students were using and to be able to see how even every morning those 15-20 minutes of community building and belonging in our morning routine was so structured that those affirmations, you can hear the kids using it with each other. So making sure that I really poured into my students, so then I can't be there for all 35 of them, but each they can be there for each other.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add so many great things were shared. I have a little bit to add about what everyone said, but I'm gonna try to keep it short. Dr. Strayhorn mentioned something that really resonated with me. Although I had a plan of what I was going to talk about, Dr. Strayhorn mentioned something about school spirit and school spirit being, people, students feeling that pride and wearing that pride. And that comes from students being able to have that ownership and feeling belonging in the classroom. And when you're a teacher in your classroom and you're thinking about how to, I guess, decorate your classroom or put your classroom together, I know a lot of teachers focus on like how it's going to look academically, but how students feel when they come in there is how they're going to perform academically, right? So having the classroom, comfortable, whether its temperature is comfortable, not too hot, not too cold, the lighting in the classroom, having flexible seating if you're able to have flexible seating, or just comfort seating. I know that, we are sometimes limited with supplies, but allowing students to stand if they want to stand, allowing students to sit in groups or pairs. I have a student who likes to work alone and they don't want to be near anyone and they work fine, perfectly alone. So just being flexible with those things. Also, routines. Just having that structure and routine. One thing that I remember a veteran teacher shared with me early on, as she had noticed that my routines were just everywhere and new things were happening every day. They shared that this 8 hours can be full routine for students, the routine that they might not have, but when they come to school, they know that these 8 hours are structured. They know what is coming next. They know it is listed on the board. They know what's happened before, what's coming next, what's coming tomorrow. They know Fun Friday is every Friday. Having those routines and structures helps them want to come back. Kids like structure, like adults like structure. So making sure that we just have that visual for them. It's really small things, and then being open with your students, talking to your students, allowing them to give you feedback, accepting that feedback, whether, no matter how it's delivered. If they say this class is boring, right? Instead of taking that personally, figure out, okay, how can I make my class more engaging? Maybe, I need to take a step back and engage students. But one thing that I use from Harmony is the Harmony building or community building pre-unit, which just before the school year just allows me to kind of lay out my class right from the first 10 days of school and provide structures, and also provides just like language for it. Because sometimes, if you don't have the language that is necessary for this, like Dr. Strayhorn mentioned, you can't just walk into the classroom and wing it and say, we're just going to have fun. We're just going to do this. There's structure, there's language that goes along with it, there's strategy that goes with it. Just similar to teaching ELA or social studies or math, there is strategy to making students feel a sense of belonging in your classroom.
I love that. Thank you so much. So Emily shared about Harmony Buddy Up, and Dr. Alejandro shared about the pre-unit. So we've put the links where you as an audience, you can go ahead and learn more. Those links are in the chat. So Dr. Strayhorn, what can you do if you feel like you are the only one on a school campus that has this heart, that sees this vision, that sees how important the sense of belonging is?
Great question. Good grief. So many wonderful things that everyone shared. Thank you, Christy and Emily and Alejandro, for those insights. I think, though, if you are feeling like you're the only person on campus or in your school who's working to promote belonging, the first thing, is what I'm like channeling on Alejandro's energy. I wasn't going to say this till I opened my mouth. Now I'm thinking, one, I bet you're not the only one. That's first, to know that you're not alone. Even if you're the only on your campus, you're not alone. You see wonderful examples on the screen of educators who are deeply passionate and committed to this. So I think sometimes creating and accessing networks of other educators who believe in student success, who believe in belonging is really important. I think that's one of the wonderful things that Harmony Academy provides. I think also our professional association. So plugging in and connecting with those folks through our various networks. The second is this: start where you bloom, where you're planted. Sort of start where you can, and that is um, in your own sphere of influence. I talked about the teacher who said, you know what, I realize that my students need a space where they can comfortably unplug and process and couldn't build it in the school, couldn't build it in the district, so he built it in his classroom. Um, I loved what Alejandro was saying, and Christy and Emily, about the very small kind of actions, like, listen, maybe you can't reset the temperature. I mean, I say all the time, it's hard to pass a test when you're hungry. It's also difficult to pay attention when you're freezing cold,
Right.
because the AC's on Arctic and it doesn't need to be, right? And so we can't always change the temperature in our room. We can't change the temperature in our school. But if we know that our classroom tends to be cold at certain times, what's the role of blankets that we might
Yeah.
bring and have donated and available to students? Whenever you get too warm or too cold, get a blanket. If you get too warm,
Love
they
that.
got, anyway, lots of really small
Yeah.
ideas that I think each of us can start to influence in our own area, and that impact there can be picked up elsewhere. The last is like the check-in. So, how are you thinking about structuring your instructional moment or day to provide time for students to check in? I got to tell you, I use it all the time now. These Harmony check-ins are wonderful. I didn't
Yeah.
know about them when I was in the classroom. I didn't know about the rose and thorn again. So I thought, come into a classroom, how'd your weekend go? No one ever answers, and you go off to the races with your lecture. But when you ask questions like, any of the Harmony check-in questions, would you rather? Or, hey, would you like to talk about what we said today? Something you could say to people to make them smile. These are just, because at the heart of belonging is about connection, and connection is often curated and facilitated through conversation. So these check-ins frame up a conversation, and it allows students to share and see through their own words how they're similar and how they're different. That's my advice to anyone who's thinking about, like, where do I get started? Start where you can. Don't make it complicated. Change often begins with one classroom. And it's that one
Yep.
classroom. The teacher next door says, "Oh my gosh, your kids are making so much noise. I want to try it." Before you know, you got two classrooms who are trying it, and two classrooms become a whole division or department in a whole school. I'll stop there.
Excellent. Thank you. Each one reach one, right? And I love the intentionality that we're talking about, being intentional with our efforts. So, with that, Emily, what are some tips that you have too? Dr. Strayhorn just talked about the teacher next door. Maybe you need to, pump it up, be loud, But what are some tips in spreading a belonging matrix throughout your school, throughout your campus? What can we do?
Yeah, so some of the tips that I would like to share and things that I've done and have worked, we will reap what we sow. And it's exactly what Dr. Strayhorn has mentioned, is starting off with finding a colleague, right? Usually sometimes they come and they bring a challenge or they bring a problem, and instead of kind of enabling that, maybe finding ways that you can kind of lead to more of a solution oriented, and then talking about belonging. Well, what do you think that parent was feeling or that student was feeling? So changing the way or shifting the conversation and the narrative, and then starting hosting events for like those teachers. It starts off with one, then two, then three, and eventually just continue to work your way up. And I even dare to go to your administrators, your principals, and ask, can I have 15, 20 minutes during the professional development to do this community building activity? So not just keeping it in the classroom, and just taking that initiative and being brave, I think is key, and what has helped me be where we are today, and being able to accomplish so much within our schools and our districts. So I think that is just as Dr. Strayhorn has mentioned, and then being brave and just continue to just spread, because you're so needed.
Yep, very good. Yep, and modeling that bravery and that courage to go ahead and do that's excellent. Thank you so much. And so our last question for Christy and Dr. Alejandro, let's talk about parents now. So how do we bring parents or other stakeholders into the belonging matrix?
For us, I think it's very important to give families the opportunity to share their concerns and be part of, the be part of resolving the problems that we have as well in our school. This is not just our students, but it's their kids as well. So I think one of the things that we need to always have is a safe space for parents to come to school and share what they would like to see and how they can as well support us for that change.
Yeah, and I can add on to that that families, they are our partners. They are co-creators of making students feel belonging in class. So communicate proactively, don't just wait until everything crashes down or ch challenges. Invite families to come in and share traditions or any sort of cultural knowledge that they can share. And also just measuring and keeping track of data as well. Keep doing equity audits, who's in the leadership classes, who are the students who are performing well, or who's sitting next to each other, doing student surveys. Do students feel seen? How do they feel seen? And making sure that those questions are aligned to really disaggregate the data the same way we do with academic data. But for parents and connecting with parents at home, I know the Harmony at Home kit is definitely helpful. It has
Yeah.
resources and family letters in there that can really extend the sense of a belonging from the classroom to at home. It's already included there. I know teachers are always wondering, teachers want to do this, but it's always like, oh, it's an extra thing to pile on. But the Harmony at Home kit kind of has that all encapsulated right up in there. So that's good. I use that in my classroom as well.
Thank you. You're reading my notes. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're in my notes. I went to a Quaker school that talks about friends, and friends speaks my mind. So you are friend, you are speaking my mind. So we're gonna go. Thank you so much for this dialogue and this conversation. We're gonna go now just to in our wrap up, and I will just continue along with talking about the Harmony what is available at Harmony. We do have our curriculum. It helps develop relationships both inside and outside of the classroom. Building strong and healthy relationships. And we're excited and thrilled about launching our brand new Harmony at Home. In addition to our Harmony at Home kits, we now have an app so you can assess this, and this is a homeschool app. It's a family-centered mobile app. It's research-backed, real-world activities for you to connect with your students and your family at home. So this has been absolutely wonderful. We could go on and on, but we are close to the end. But before we wrap up, I'd like to just have you all share just a takeaway, just something that's most important for our audience to keep in mind when thinking about that sense of belonging now at the start of the school year. So, final thoughts.
Mine is fresh on my head, so I will start. So
Yeah.
to me, belonging really isn't just like a single moment. It's built up every day, starting from the beginning of the school year. I think it's probably one of the most important things that we can commit to, because we see students every day, and it matters when how we interact with them, and when they can feel that from day one, everything else, academics, socially, confidence, and resilience can all come together throughout the entire year.
Thank you. Emily,
I
Dr.
think that
Strayhorn, or yep. Uh-huh.
I would just like to share, I think that belonging is showing up with love and curiosity.
Perfect. Thank you.
For me, sense of belongings means working together, accepting everybody's differences, and using all those differences as a superpower because we're here to work together.
Excellent. Dr. Strayhorn, take us out.
Well, again, celebrating all of those on our panel. Certainly to you, Toya, for the excellent work of moderating this webinar. Belonging is everything that we've talked about. It's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's this notion and belief that students get that, man, somebody cares about me. Someone woke up this morning with me on my mind. My teacher sees me as not just a name on a roster, but a human who's got dreams and aspirations. And maybe my test performance is not proving to you right now, but tucked inside of this is a mathematician or a lawyer or an artist or a historian. And what I need is what you've got, that expertise, but I can't just receive it like a gift that you just put in a bag and hand to me. It's got to be wrapped in something. And belonging is that refers to that environment, those conditions that make learning and connections possible. Look, belonging is not magic, but when done well, the way that we've talked about today, it does produce magical results. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much. This has been absolutely marvelous. All good things must come to an end, they say. But join us next month. We'll be continuing on partnering with parents, fostering healthy relationships. October 22nd, presented by Jennifer Miller, the founder and author of Confident Parents and Confident Kids. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our esteemed speaker and our panelists. This was wonderful. Thank you for those that joined today. As we close out, you will have a survey. If you would fill it out for us so that we know what your feedback is. I'm seeing a lot of smiles and hearts, and I love it. So thank you again. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.